You mentioned in your testimony about the Bureau of Prisons, and I'm pleased. It's kind of one thing that probably doesn't get the attention that it deserves among us and perhaps others. And Kansas is the home to a federal prison. Hiring and retention has been a significant, I assume, issue, lack of personnel. And I just would give you the opportunity to tell us how things are going. I think we're also, where the federal prison is located in Kansas, has a number of state prisons as well, and they compete for officers and employees. But nationwide, we need more staffing, it appears, at Bureau of Prisons, and I'd be interested in knowing how you think we will address that, and if you are.
I had a handwritten note here for you on the Leavenworth, Kansas, $50 million we are building, with all exclamation marks, in Kansas. Yeah, the BOP, I feel like, for lack of a better term, it's been a stepchild of the Department of Justice. That's probably not the right term, but I feel like they've been left out, and that was one thing as a career prosecutor that I care deeply about. And when Gadi Serralta gets in here, that was one of the positions that we searched high and low for the best person for the job, because as a prosecutor, I know you can't lock everyone up forever. You don't want to lock everyone up forever, but you want people to succeed when they go to prison. You want them to be able to succeed when they get out. Otherwise, you will have a revolving door. And that's what I feel our prison has been lacking. It's been a mess. BOP has been a mess. And that is one of the areas where we are greatly increasing funding, and the big, beautiful bill gives us a lot of money for increasing that. Not only that, but also for the First Step Act, for the halfway houses, to give people an opportunity after they've served their time to get out and be successful. And I believe there are many programs that should have been instituted in the federal prisons that have not been. Programs while you are an inmate. But we also have to have retention and bonuses and reasons for our prison guards to want to work in that environment. I think that's one of the toughest things that as Attorney General I have to tackle. But with Gadi Serralta by my side, I know we're going to be able to do that. I pray we are every day.
General, one of the other areas that, and you may be very cognizant of this, that I think we sometimes overlook, and I certainly don't want to diminish the significant support that this subcommittee and people individually give to law enforcement, federal, state, local. We pay a lot of attention to the FBI, DEA, ATF, U.S. Marshals in this subcommittee, but I sometimes think we overlook U.S. attorneys, prosecutors. We can arrest people, but we need to make certain that we have a process by which the prosecution occurs and justice is ultimately attained. Anything you would like for us to know in this subcommittee as we pay attention to the total arena of not only arresting and law enforcement, but also the aspect of prosecution?
Senator, thank you for saying that. I've had the honor and privilege of working with, I believe, the brightest lawyers in the entire country in the Department of Justice. Not only our incredible U.S. attorneys, but in our civil division, throughout our criminal division, throughout every division in the department. But yes, the U.S. attorneys are second to none, and they are out there tirelessly fighting to keep people safe. I think what a lot of people don't realize is when we talk about FBI, DEA, ATF, all those cases from conception are being done hand in hand with the U.S. attorneys, even in the investigative stages. You only see them in the courtroom after the cases have been made, but that's of course not true. They are working tirelessly, and they are the best of the best, and our law enforcement officers are the bravest of the brave in this country.
I try never to admit my failures, but at a young age, I don't know, maybe 32 or something, I thought I should be the U.S. attorney for my home state, and I was terribly unqualified, I'm quite certain, but it was a very appealing job for the combination of public service, law enforcement, and protection of people. I think it's a very, we need to make certain that those individuals who prosecute in a U.S. attorney's office are recognized and honored.
Thank you.
And then, I helped create and pass legislation a number of years ago I would highlight this again, and I think this grant program exists, but I'm not sure it's existing the way that I'd hoped. There are so many small local law enforcement offices. The city police department, the county sheriff's office, they don't have grant writers. And what I was trying to accomplish in a legislative effort and just getting the support of previous attorney generals was to create a grant program that eliminated much of the bureaucracy, paperwork, the efforts that are so time-consuming for a department that has a handful of officers, none of them grant writers, and if somebody's writing a grant, they're being taken off the street, off the township roads, and I want to make certain that you're aware of that effort and would be supportive of it and encourage it. Find ways to get those law enforcement agencies, small in nature, but who provide such tremendous support in our communities, to make sure that they have access to federal dollars, as do some of the larger departments.
Yes, I've learned more about grants in the last 6 months than I ever thought I would in my entire career. But yes, we've been working to improve accessibility by funding and simplifying the grant process. Reading these convoluted grants makes your head spin. And so we are working to streamline that and to help our rural and communities as well.
And General, you highlighted something that I would be remiss if I didn't perhaps correct what I say. I'm happy to have you reduce the bureaucracy and paperwork with any grant for any agency, whatever size, not just small and rural communities, but they have a particular problem that it's really hard for them to meet. And then, to follow up to, with Senator Van Hollen not here, I'll follow up with what he was saying. He was asking you about in following the law in regard to DEA, ATF, what was called a merger. What I heard you say is that you used the word merger and you used the word umbrella. And I think the difference is that the two agencies, at least just to confirm I understand what you were saying, the two agencies continue to exist, but the oversight that occurs at the Department of Justice will be an umbrella over the two agencies. There's no actual official merger between the two. There's supervision. This umbrella is different to me. The word is different than a merger.
Yes, Senator.
That makes sense?
Yes, Senator.
Okay. And then finally, as I shook your hand and said good morning to you this morning, you volunteered the importance of NIBIN, and I wanted to give you a chance to further extend those remarks during this hearing. ATF has a particularly strong presence in Wichita, Kansas. It includes a crime gun intelligence center at Wichita State University, a new correlation center that works in tandem with the one in Redstone Arsenal in Alabama, and opening next year is a new lab that will support revolutionary techniques to analyze DNA that comes from crime guns and casings. My question is that tell me what I want to give you a fuller opportunity to tell me about the importance of science and technology in the ATF and other law enforcement agencies being able to complete their jobs.
Thank you, Senator. NIBIN is a very crucial tool in our fight against gun violence and gun crime. In fact, I believe I've used them many times when I was a state prosecutor very early in my career and throughout my career. Analyzing the ballistics information is vitally important. We will continue to do everything we can. And I know it's very important to our sheriffs, to our state and local law enforcement officers. And we are going to do everything to be sure that NIBIN is fully funded. Let me assure all Americans we will do that.
Thank you. If you'd give me just one moment. Again, this is probably an issue maybe for the Department of Homeland Security more than the Department of Justice, but to highlight this for you as the nation's law enforcement officer, again, in those rural counties where we have a county or district attorney, and we have the human trafficking occur and arrests take place, the victims of human trafficking, then there's no interpreter, there's no place to house the victims. They begin to disappear within the community, and then there's no prosecution because there's no victim to provide the testimony to convict the potential perpetrator of that crime. I don't know whether you have anything you want to say about this, but I want this to be known that just as the federal government in its involvement in trying to help us deter and eliminate human trafficking, we struggle to have the resources necessary to meet the needs of those who are being trafficked.
Yes, we do, and I realize that is a very important aspect in your state as well. Interpreters are a huge thing. I witnessed that when I was a prosecutor in Florida, and we have to do everything we can to support our state and local law enforcement working hand in hand because, again, many of those communities are very rural. Let me clarify one thing. Can I please go back? I'm glad you're back, Senator Van Hollen. You do have to, of course, appropriate the funds for our reorganization. You called it a merger, I called it a reorganization. But of course, the funds would be appropriated by Congress. And we, of course, will work with you to follow the law, and we hope you support that. The funding for the ATF and the DEA to work under one umbrella. I think we were saying the same thing in a different way.
We'll have to compare notes and see whether we're on the same page, but thank you.
Let the record show that it was you that provoked Senator Van Hollen to return to the microphone. Senator Van Hollen, thank you for your cooperation today and to our committee members who were here. It is a busy time in the United States Senate. Our appropriations process is hugely important. We want to complete all of our appropriation bills, including Commerce, Justice, and Science, and we want those appropriation bills to march their way across the Senate floor, be considered by the House, and signed by the President. It's hugely important to your department and to the country that we not once again end up in a situation in which we're incapable of doing that, and we have a continuing resolution that leaves things in limbo. If there are no further questions, senators may submit their additional questions for the subcommittee's official hearing record. We request your response within 30 days. So there may be written questions submitted to you, to the Department of Justice, and we'd appreciate and ask for your 30 days response. And with that, the subcommittee stands in recess to the call of the chair.